Hi, and welcome to CTV. I'm your host, Cynthia Tapia, and on this week's episode, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Oakland's Godfather of Football, Hall of Fame, state championship, and you may recognize him from season 5 Netflix hit series, Last Chance U, Coach John Beam. Coach, welcome to the show. I'm honored to have you.
Well, Cynthia, I'm fired up with that big intro. I don't know how I can do it. I think it's all myth personally. But let's start this right. Here we go. This is how I do everything. So let's do this. Ready?
Ready.
2 claps. Ready? All right, let's go. Your show.
Ready.
Make it happen.
You build up that resume. So that's all you. Over 40 seasons of coaching and then over 15 at Laney. You came in, changed the whole program, but I want to back it up a little bit before that. Who was Coach John Beam back then when he first got started building his legacy?
Boy, I tell you what, I started coaching my first 2 years in San Diego when I was 20 and 21.
Wow.
I was a guy that was trying to get a scholarship in football, just had, major surgery twice on the same knee. And my coach at Mesa College said, hey, go see Mike Williams. He needs an offensive line coach. You need to do something because you're not going to go now to play. You'll go in the spring. I said, all right, I'll do it. And I walked on, 20 years old, feeling myself, and I'm going to coach these kids. And Mike Williams was a phenomenal mentor, just brilliant football mind. And it was like his second year maybe as a head coach. And the school was only 5 years old or 4 years old. And so, we took him to the playoffs for the first time ever. We had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I just coached offensive line. And, that's kind of when I decided, I'm not going to go in the NFL. I don't want to go to Eastern New Mexico to play. That's where my scholarship was, to play football. Mm-hmm. San Diego or Eastern New Mexico, that's a no-brainer, right? So right? So I'm just going to stay right here and do it. And so it was phenomenal. I thought I found what I loved. I found a passion.
I want to know your life, your dedication to Laney and to Oakland. Why have you never left?
Wow, that's great. But why not? So that's the other question, right? Why not? I think that, I'm from a different era, right? The new era, everybody moves jobs every year or two for the next one. I think, my high school coach was there forever, right? In fact, I was his last team he coached. He was there for 20 plus years. I think the old school coaches stayed at a school for a long, long time. The second thing was, I believe in family, right? My family is very important to me. And I hope it came out in the show that you could see that we do a lot with our family, right? Yeah. And so when you coach at the Division I level, I don't think you get to have a family. That's secondary, right? Your coaching job is the most important thing, not your family, because, you got to go out and recruit. You got to be here. If you get fired, you got to move your family again and again and again. Some coaches move their family 8, 9, 10 times, in 10, 12 years, like almost every other year.
Right.
And so how can you, say you're about family if you're constantly uprooting your family? You're not putting your family first. And so that was important to me. And then I think over the time, Oakland became part of my family. And so I wanted to be here and embrace this city, just like the city embraced me. I'm not from here, but they adopted me, right? They said, okay, we like what you're doing. We accept you in our community. You've proven that you're okay. And, I think I did a little bit more than okay, but that was good. Basically that I could be counted on, right? That I could be there. I could stand up for people. And I think that's an important value, right? And so that's why I've been here.
Have you ever thought maybe of coaching, like if you did get the opportunity to maybe go to the Raiders while staying in Oakland, if it ever presented?
Sure. I don't think it would ever happen, but I worked for the Raiders for about 10, 12 years. I ran their youth camp, youth skills camp. I got to, I can say this, I actually got to meet Al Davis, and he and I had some great conversation, and he told people that he followed my career, and so that meant a lot because Al Davis as an owner is really a football guy, right? He knows football
through and through.
And so for him to say that he followed my career and did it, and this is kind of funny, Sean Payton, who's a good friend of mine, he was interviewing for the Raiders head job. And he told me that during his first ever interview for a head football coaching job with Al Davis, 20 minutes of that conversation was about John Bean. Being a football coach is very, very important to me, right? I mean, I think it's huge. But there are good football coaches at every level, right? Sometimes we think that you're the pinnacle of your career if if Andy Reid wins the Super Bowl again this year, 2 years in a row, he is the best coach, right? The pinnacle. But is it really true? There are some really good coaches at high school level and youth level that just because of the life circumstances can't keep pushing themselves forward, right? Nick Saban. Because really, when I look at football, and I love football and I love everything about the competition of it, right? But I'm really using football as a vehicle, right? A vehicle to reach young people, to make a difference in young people's lives. To me, that's more important. And so I had this conversation with a young coach just recently that wanted to move on. I said, okay, but do you think Nick Saban makes a difference in young people's lives? You know what I mean? Really, does he? And I'm talking about not, yeah, he makes a difference in making a guy be a first round draft pick. I get that. But I'm talking about a fundamental difference with people that are just trying to survive every day,
Right.
To become just, a healthy human being in today's society. That's a big challenge. And I think I get to do that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because it was displayed on the show. I fell in love with the show, but specifically season 5. Like Laney had me sold. I was like, okay, there needs to be a season 2 of this. Is that going to happen?
Well, you heard what I've heard. It says no, but then again, people have said, that are affiliated with the shows that you could never say never.
Right.
So I don't know what that means. And then here's the other part, right? Think about this, right? So the comments like yourself have made and everybody's made have been really positive. Man, can you reach that level again? Do you want to, hey, do you want to just leave now while you're on top? Everybody feels good. Maybe I'll really show out to be a buffoon or something just leave it. So I'm okay. If Greg and everybody latched on you are happy where we ended, I'm happy where we ended too. You know what I mean?
But you're right. I think what I noticed was the impact you did have, especially when it came to Dior Walker-Scott and Rajon Wright. And now I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, these gentlemen have went on to further themselves, but they've always given a thanks to you. And how does that make you feel being part of these journeys, knowing that not only are they elite of the elite moving forward, but also, like you said, the personal aspect of it?
It's the intrinsic value that you get, right? It's the things that you can't see that mean so much, right? When you talk with people and they say, hey, coach, you made a difference in my life. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. Not as a professional, I'm just talking about as a human being. When you realize it and you hear it and you get that hug and you share tears, you know what? My check is big enough. You know what I mean? But this the rewards that you get. And like today, I don't even know if Dior finally got it here in his scholarship at Hawaii. So he's fully on a Division I athletic scholarship. And so him and I talked today, and he was just, the burden that's off his shoulders now because he was paying for school, right? It's like, not to have that, he's trying to, hustle a job here and there to pay the bills and, eat. I mean, we saw him living in a car. We saw him, working at Wingstop. And he's trying to do that at Laney. Well, he's also now trying to do that at, University of Hawaii. And so to hear him you could just hear the thankfulness that he has, the relief that he feels. You can't put a price on that.
I particularly loved Dior's spirit. Despite everything that boy had went through, sleeping in the car, having to work a job, and still come out and perform with a smile on his face and just be happy to be there, it inspired me. It made me look at life in a different perspective. And it's kind of crazy because you guys went through 3 quarterbacks and then ended up with him wide receiver. Did you expect him to perform like that well at quarterback?
No, but you first of all, he's a team player, right? He's going to put the team first. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard to do that because all their life, it's all about you. And so he was able to embrace that. And so that was huge. And then second, you just put a kid that's very intelligent, very competitive, wants to do well, and has a certain skill set. And then, for us as coaches, we have to put them in a position now to be as successful as possible. And so, we had to put a lot of work in, but nowhere near what he had to do, right? The sacrifices we made were minimal compared to what he made.
And that's great because he was always willing to do what you asked of him.
Yes.
And I really felt like that was the connection I got to see with you guys have. You are a girl dad. You don't have any sons. So I think it's safe to say from what I saw, Dior was kind of like an extension of your family, a son that you took in as your own. What would you say your relationship with him is like now?
Oh, it's phenomenal, right? But I tell people all the time, right? And I don't get this, when your wife or girlfriend, whoever's pregnant, significant other's pregnant, or you have a child, they go, "Oh, was it a boy? I hope it's a boy." Like, I'm like, no, I want a healthy child. That's all that matters to me. And I have two beautiful daughters, right? But I tell them, I go, every year I get 100 sons, and I don't have to buy them pants. I don't have to feed them every day, right? So that's pretty good. They get to go home with somebody. So I get to be a dad, but not be a dad in certain ways. And it's easier, you know, but with Dior, it's like, you spend the time just talking and helping them just navigate life growing up. Right. And even, part of my the conversations with him were sometimes talking about trying to repair his relationship with his own father. Right.
Right.
And looking back, and then it wasn't going to happen. Right. And, and let me just say this, I don't know what his relationship with Jarvis is. I just knew it was bad. And then when so we don't see what's being filmed right until it comes out. Right. I mean, I got to see it 10 days before you all did, but I'm like, oh snap. I didn't know his dad was that bad. I didn't know they're having this type of issues. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we don't know what Jarvis's point of view is either. Right. We only know what we saw through Dior's eyes. And I think every story is always, there's two perspectives of it.
Absolutely.
And so you just deal with it. And, so like I try to talk to him about, okay, let's move on, let's learn, let's do these other things from it. And, let's don't have hate in your life about it, right? Let's get the hate away. Hate is not going to help you, deal with this issue or grow or heal from this issue, having this hatred, So, what has happened. Put yourself in a new position so that you can be happy, happy. Not about successful, happy, just be happy, and that was what we wanted him to do. Find things that make you happy in life, right? And then start to build on it.
Right, that's important. And I'm curious. So everything that was filmed from the show, that was all real. There was nothing for, the cameras, no scripts. Like that was all legit, everything.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. I mean, the only thing that I would say is that they film 6 to 7 hours every day, and they are filming 6 days a week, and we see 8 hours. That's a difference, right? And so they do have an idea. They have all these like producers, young producers that have certain storylines. Like, so they'll go interview, like the different people you see interviewed. So, like Tim Kuhn, the writer, and other people. So they go do a lot of interviews, and they decide which one fit the story they want to tell, right? And so it was interesting that they told you talk about Dior, you talk about Ray, there's RJ, there's New, and even myself. But the other big character in this show was the city of Oakland, right? So they decided to make that a character as well. And so they found the stories that they wanted to, I didn't even know some of the people they interviewed. I mean, I knew a couple, like some of them, but I'm like, I don't know who that guy is, right? And so they were looking at that, to build what they wanted. And so that was that's their artistic, slant of how they want to do it. So yeah, it's genuine, it's organic in a sense, but they have many, many stories. And just like we see the 4 players that they featured, but they were filming and following maybe an additional 4 or 5, and trying to figure out how that worked in the storyline, right? If it did work in the storyline. And so, and I don't know why they ended out. I mean, obviously Dior is a pretty easy pick. Why, right?
Right.
And same with when you think about Ray, because he's such a big time player. And then I think New, gave a whole nother perspective for everybody to see that here's this young man with 2 kids, got married, and they're both trying to, navigate parenthood, relationship wise and academic, right? So it was a whole different perspective to show the world.
Right.
And so I thought that was pretty interesting, right? And then RJ, is kind of a prototypical guy, like in the sense, works hard, frustrated about certain things. So, that's the normal that you're gonna have an RJ on every team, right?
Mhm.
So that worked out. But I think the storylines were interesting, right? And even for RJ, he's so articulate. He's very, very bright. And then, I knew he had some issues at home with his dad. I didn't realize all the other issues that were going. He didn't share that obviously with us. He
Mhm.
chose to with the crew was really surprised. He showed him all that. But he said, you're going to probably find out anyway about what happened with my, my mom, my grandmother. I said, oh shit. Okay. So yeah, interesting.
Right. Okay. So that's refreshing to know that I was watching real life then.
Oh yeah, when they're real life, when yeah. I mean, he's brought his daughter there before cameras ever showed the first one, and then he brought
I
a
love
second one.
that
That's
he
been
brought.
happening in real life.
Yeah, I was inspired. Like, wow, like that just went to show what type of demographic you were touching. You were touching the young men who had the grind in them, who were not going to stop at nothing. They made it happen no matter what. So Oakland was built very different. Laney built. I understand that now. Laney built is different. That's a different kind of clock.
It's a totally different thing from the first 2 places they went to, right? They're on scholarship. They're on, young men all have issues. Trust me, right? They're very similar issues. Okay, but what you saw was a different struggle because we don't have dorms, we don't have a meal plan, right? There's some different struggles that we have to, you have to drive like Ray did 2 hours to get to Laney every day. So those are different. And so I think that's what they saw. But remember, there are more colleges in California, junior colleges in California playing football than the rest of the country combined. So we truly are a reflection of what's happening in California. No scholarships anywhere in California, right? So you got to see, what's happening. There's more of that happening than anywhere. So you got to picture that.
Right, firsthand. So how does that, like you said, because you guys don't have the dorms, you don't have the scholarships to offer, how does that affect the actual recruiting process for you when you are trying to get athletes to come?
So we don't, we recruit community college, right? Our community, right? That's who we recruit. We're the first small team to win a state championship, number 1 team in the country. We're the first small team to win with like less than, I think we had 8 guys on our team from out of state. We recruit the kids in our community. There's enough of them there, but we have to build them. Hence the word Laney built, right? We got to teach them. We got to build them up. We got to make them stronger. We got to make them better students, right? We got to support them when they have housing insecurities, food insecurities, as much as we can within the rules. Remember, the thing that's so funny, and are you in California? Do you live in California?
No, I'm in Arizona.
Okay. So Arizona has JCs that give scholarships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they dropped football, but
They did.
in California, we have laws or rules, right, that govern us, that say basically govern us out of humanity. I know Dior is not eating. I cannot feed him because that's against the rules. So the guys were all my colleagues, because I'm also the AD and the head football coach, right? They were all laughing because when in the show I'm giving them some of my carrots. Oh, they're going to turn you in on a violation because you gave them carrots. And the reality is they probably would. They could have, right? I go, are you kidding me? Or a cup of noodles, right? Come on, guys. But that's what the 3C2A, which governs us, was built in the rules from the 50s and 60s and maybe even 70s when the athletes didn't look like Dior, did not come from the same life circumstances as New,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's another barrier. When we look at social justice, right? When we look at what's happening in our communities of marginalized students, right? Or marginalized folks, right? The marginalized academics. Who bridges that and how? Right? Well, that's what our job is. And so I take that very seriously. So I go get the kids in our community. We bring them in. And you saw the facility, right? No one has a better facility than ours. When I got hired as the AD, the chancellor at the time used to be the mayor of Oakland, and him and I had a relationship. He goes, Coach, what do we got to do? I go, look, our locker room before was called the dungeon. It was underneath the school, just above the BART tracks. It was dingy, and sewage came up when it rained. So this is how we treat them. So we built a 24,000 square foot building. You know what I mean? We knocked it out. We put a new field, right? We did all these things to tell these young people, you know what? We believe in you, right? We honor what you do, and we're going to show you this by where our money is, right? We're going to make sure that you have tutoring. We're going to make sure, like I brought a social worker around, right? We're going to make sure that happens. We make sure you have computers. So I think that was part of the thing I'm really proud of that Oakland and Laney, kind of embraced over the years.
Right. And I'm curious because I consider you the Bill Belichick of JUCO football.
Well, thank you.
These players to come to Laney and produce at the highest level and then continue their career. You've produced Marvel Smith, CJ Anderson, Sterling. That's just a few, but over 100 prospects to go to D1. And then on top,
actually, it's more than that. I was at 100 when I was at high school. I think at Laney, because sometimes we get like 10 or 12 out of Laney. So, wow. Yeah. But I've had over 20 go to the NFL. During my time at Laney, I think I might have the most NFL guys in that time. Out of the JC, at least here. But that's not the real reason, right? I do it, right? Ask me how many fathers I have that are unbelievable fathers now, that are dads, that are actually there for their son or daughter, right? Raise them. That to me is even more so. Marvell is a phenomenal father, even though he played in the Super Bowl, right? He's done a phenomenal job raising his kids, right? And being a good husband. Those are, CJ's got a baby. Those are the other things, right, that I want to be a role model for, right? Because remember, football's got a shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that milk carton in your refrigerator. It expires, baby. When it expires, it's done. It's a sour taste. So what are you going to do now, right? And I tell this story all the time. Marvell was at the pinnacle of the NFL. 2 Super Bowl rings, Pro Bowl, one of the highest paid players. After 10 years, he's done. So at 32, what do? You got the rest of your life. And he's done phenomenal, right? So he's an Arizona State grad, by the way. He's on the Arizona Hall of Fame.
For sure. So you also get them to produce for you, but they have this respect for you. You can see it. It's depicted on the show. What is your philosophy for coaching?
Boy, it's tough love, right? I don't have no problem with tough love, but but I'm gonna hug them up too. I'm gonna give them tough love. I'm gonna hug them up. If I'm ripping them one day or ripping them one time, then I'm gonna hug them up just as hard, right? And I think the other thing is I will always believe in you, so you can believe in yourself, and I will never lie to you. Like sometimes RJ and I battled because I told him my truth. Now I'm always saying this is just my opinion, right? This is my opinion. That's all it is. But I'm not gonna lie. Dior, these are the things, right? You're gonna do. New. Hey, New, do you really want to go D1 or are you afraid to leave your family? Because if you go D1, you're going to have to leave California. Okay. And, and all of a sudden he said yes, and his grades changed, right? But he was on the fence for a while. Ray, you keep telling everybody how good you are. When you telling people how good you are, brother, that means you ain't shit, because you shouldn't have to tell anybody. You should already be doing it. And so those are the comments that you have, right? And so luckily, like I tell them, I can tell you what an NFL player looks like because I've coached enough of them. Right? I was on the field with Marvell when the confetti was coming down when he won his first Super Bowl. So I know what it looks like. Jarris, I was there when he won it, when they beat an undefeated Patriot team. The Giants beat them, right? I was there when CJ beat, Carolina. So I've been there. And so I get it. And I tell them, like, these are what happens. You want to be a D1 student, athlete, then you better be a D1 student first. Then we'll worry about being the athlete. And so with Ray, that was a constant struggle. Like, Ray, come on, brother, you got to get into class, man. What is happening? Well, I'm late. I don't want to hear that. That scholarship is going to be late too. So that's a $50,000 scholarship, brother. You don't want $50,000 in your pocket? Let me know, because I'll give it to another cat. And so, you just got to keep hitting them on that. You got to be honest with them. You got to just keep telling them what they have. You can't coddle them. And when I say that, not that I don't, like, I hugged up Dior. You saw that, right? But,
Right.
But on other times I had to rip Dior on some things. Like, dude, what do you mean? So, you got to pick and choose how those battles work out.
Now, I'm seeing Nation Wright declared for the draft, and that's amazing. Laney built, but also he gets to play with his brother Stick and Pole. But what does that mean for
Very
you?
good. Stick
Actually,
and
yeah.
poke.
What does that actually mean for Coach Beam to see his Laney built and then on top of that go together as this duo?
So when you look at this, right, every young man that comes there, I don't care if you played every snap in your high school is zero. They all think they're going to play in the NFL. That's your dream, right? And they grind for it. And you try to temper them a little bit, like, hey, there's very small percentage make it. But when they do make it, and you tell them, hey, that hard work you've been doing, look where you're at now. And for Stick, Shawnee, that's what he did, right? Remember, Shawnee was not highly recruited out of high school by JCs. He went to two other JCs before he showed up to Laney. He had never played DB until we made him a DB at Laney. And then, he went on and he only played 1 year. So he had 3 years at Oregon State because he did such a good job. He took 21 units his last semester at Laney to get his AA degree. 21
Wow.
units. He was grinding, right? And he did it. And then he got to Oregon State, and then he's like, wants to come home. I go, why? Coach, I can come home and play. I want to come home and play. No, I want to play with my brother. No, you already played with your brother. You won a championship. You're there. You're staying. We're done. And, he started, then he got benched, and then he ended up with 4 picks. And then this year, he really got it going. And then early during the season, he says, Coach, I'm gonna be one and done. I'm out. I go, no, you're not. You're gonna finish. He goes, Coach, everybody says I can go. I said, no, who's telling you this? Well, some agents. I don't believe agents are telling you what you want to hear. I'll tell you when it's time to go. Do you trust me? Coach, I trust you. All right. So at that point, I'm like, shit, I better do what I got to do. So I reached out to fortunately, because again, I've been doing this for 40 years. I reached out to a number of people in the NFL that I know, I've worked with, and they started running a grade on him because they didn't grade him early on because they didn't think he was going to go out. And so next thing you know, his grade came out like a 5th rounder. Then it was a 4th rounder. And they're like, oh shit, maybe a 3rd rounder. So now I got to call him up. I go, Shawnee, all right, you're right. You can come out now.
That's great that he had your support and you in the back corner to do all that for him because they don't have a dad from what the show
No,
show.
yeah, because their dad was killed, right? And what he tells is that, so Shawnee came over to play for us. He had jammed his finger and he was kind of in and out, 3rd JC. And then his father was shot and killed. So he tells everybody, I came and got him at his house and told him to get his ass off the couch. Because that's not what your dad wants you to do. Is that correct? No. Does your dad want you on this couch? I understand you're hurting. I understand you're crying. You can come cry with me. But your dad does not expect you to sit on this couch all day long. And that's what he did. He came and he never missed again.
Wow, that's a story that
Yeah.
me. Yeah, that's
But he
amazing.
did it. And that's what I'm saying. People don't understand the work that he's done to put himself in this position. And that's what I'm telling Ray all the time. I said, Ray, you know what? Because this is bullshit. Your brother worked himself. Because Ray's always been the better guy. Even when, the older brother, Ray got more accolades. Ray was this guy. Ray was that guy. Shawnee was this, guy just growing into himself. In fact, one of the NFL scouts came back with a grade like he's a long arms and legs, looks like a giant deer, learning how to move them all, right? Which is true. But what it is he got so much better from his 1 year playing DB at Laney to his basically 1.5 years at Oregon State, right? He's gotten so much better. And like I told a scout, yeah, you can say that, but watch what he's going to do in 1 more year. So you're going to be the guy that bets on him that he's not going to be that good. You're going to be looking for a job because the NFL is not for long, brother. So trust me on this one. You better give him a higher grade. And the guy comes back, you're trying to bully me. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you, hey, I don't know shit. I'm a JC coach, but I've been around 40 years, and I haven't been wrong yet. So we'll see.
That's why you are the godfather of football. That right there.
Well, trust me, I'm not afraid to talk shit to people because, like I said, they don't pay my salary.
I love it. That's what makes you Coach John Beam. I love it. You did describe Ray though as a Sunday player early on, and I thought that was kind of a very prophetic statement to make, especially at JUCO. What was it about Ray that you observed that you just knew he belongs there? Any given Sunday is him.
One is both what Ray and Shawnee both have, stick and pole, is their height. They're 6'3" and 6'4" legitimately. They both can run. The difference is Ray's hips are so fluid. They're just fluid. They're just, he's like a smaller kid's hips. They both, them because of their dad, gave them swag, right? They both will not back down. With Ray's problem sometimes is, okay, you have to be strategic with your swag sometimes though, right? And then, like I try to tell him, I said, look, if you don't think you can get better, then why are you here, right? Because you can't get better. If everybody thinks they're so good, right? Well, how am I going to prove myself? 40 years of coaching, I still go to coaching clinics to learn, right? I still want to talk to people to get better. Ray, you got to get better. You're not all that. And he went to Oregon State and he found out he wasn't all better, right? And, he'll be there. He'll be fine. I thought it was great that he got humbled this year a little bit because he's going to work a lot harder now. And I know the pandemic didn't help him, right? But I'm not going to give him that pass. I'm not going to give him that excuse, right? They've gotten too many excuses. Just like, early on, well, his dad, even with Ray, so he was a senior in high school when his dad was shot and killed, right? So when I got Shawnee off the couch, I told Ray, I said, you got to graduate high school, brother. Well, you're not going to class. Now, what are you going to do? If you don't graduate, you can still come to Laney, but I can't get you financial aid. That means you ain't going to have no money in your pocket. How's that going to work? So get off the thing. So you got to kind of keep motivating them, right? And it was tough for them. They have a tough life. The pinnacle of your senior year, you want your dad there watching you do all these great prom, graduate, the winning touchdown, whatever it is. And then instead, you got to deal with, his death. And then when we were going for our state championship, they had to deal with the part of going to court, and being there in court some of the times that the trial was going on. And so you had to be, for us, we had to be aware of it. We had to be cognizant of this and making sure that we were sensitive to what was going on in their lives, right?
Right. Yeah. And we didn't even know that. That's probably a lot for them to deal with on the field, off the field, having to deal with, football and then the traumatic experience of I can't even imagine. So yeah, that just.
And then driving 2 hours to come to school every day in traffic.
Yeah, that is commitment. Their commitment to you, to Laney, to their grind. That's a different type of respect. So I truly loved this season. I wish it would come back, but I'm honored to have the conversation with you. Yeah, you're definitely going in the history books. Oakland is you. So when I come to Oakland, I'll be sure to stop by.
Come on. So thank you so much. I'm so honored that you brought me on. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach. And let's do it one last time for the nation. Ready.
Here we go. You ready? Here we go. One clap. Ready?
Thank you. I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure. You have a wonderful night.